Hello everyone. Today in this session I will discuss on the concept of circulatory system, and it is one of the important chapter in the 10th ICSE syllabus. And furthermore, if I comment upon the circulatory system in case of the higher animals, the circulatory system is one of the organ system which is meant for transportation of the various substances within our body. And the circulatory system is comprised of the three important parts. One is called as a heart, second is known as blood, and the third one is the blood vessels. In this session, I will talk upon particularly on the blood section. That is one of the important part of the circulatory system. So primarily, the blood is referred with the name of mobile connective tissue, and it is comprised of two important parts. One is referred with the name of plasma, and the second one is referred with the name of formed elements or corpuscles. Keep in mind, the formed elements does not means that all the elements are cellular. They are erythrocytes, they are leukocytes, but keep in mind the platelets, they are not the cells, and hence we can say within the human blood there are only the two kinds of cells, RBC and WBC, technically referred with the name of erythrocytes and leukocytes. The third category of components, these are not the cell, rather these are the cell fragments, and these are referred with the name of thrombocytes or blood platelets. The main function of the circulatory system, including the blood, is to help in the transportation of the various materials from one place of the body to the second, and thereby coordinating in the stability of the body functioning. So these are the various parts of the circulatory system in case the human body. Human beings, they have the blood vascular system, a special kind of circulatory system. And this blood vascular system is comprised of heart, blood vessels, and the blood. And these ducts which you can visualize on the screen, the red vessels, these are known as the arteries, whereas the blue vessels, these are the veins. And the central pouch-like portion, this is the heart, and which acts as a muscular pump, and the fluid which circulates inside the arteries as well as the veins, that is referred to the name of blood vessels. And I have already mentioned the red ones, these are the arteries, and blue ones, these are the veins. Then the main functioning of the circulatory system I have already cited, that is a transportation of the various substances. And what are the substances which are transported with the help of the circulatory system? These are the respiratory gases like oxygen and carbon dioxide, nutrients like glucose, amino acids, fatty acids, vitamins, minerals, etc. And in addition to that, it is also helpful in the transportation of the hormones from one region of the body to the second, particularly from endocrine glands to the target site. And one more function which is correlated with the transportation activity of the circulatory system or the blood, that is a collection of the waste products from the tissue cells and its delivery to the special organs like kidneys or lungs for its disposal. And another one, as the blood roams within the body, due to its movement, the heat is generated and it is helpful in maintenance of the heat or temperature balance. One additional function which can be allocated to the circulatory system, and that is the protection. We know that the circulatory system is having one of the important category of cells in the blood which are referred to the name of WBC or the leukocytes. The WBC or the leukocytes, these are soldiers of the body, these are the scavengers of the body. They help to fight against the infections, and they phagocytize the pathogens like bacteria or protozoans or even the fungal spores. In addition to that, within our blood there are found the antibodies, and these antibodies, they act as third line of defense, the most powerful tool in the defense mechanisms. And now if I will discuss the composition of the blood now, The blood in case of the human beings is comprised of two portions. The liquid portion of the blood is known as a plasma that constitutes the 55% part of the blood, whereas the solid portion of the blood, which is also referred with the name of formed elements, that is comprised of 45% of blood fraction, and it contains the various elements like RBC, WBC, as well as the platelets. And basically, the fractional composition of the blood can be calculated by using the centrifuge or by using the centrifugal apparatus. We will take out the blood from some superficial vein, and then it is taken into the test tube and it is centrifuged in the centrifugal machine, and due to the centrifugation, the heavier elements, they will settle down in the test tube and their amount can be read as the percentile out of 100. And composition of the blood, I have already indicated, it is made up of two important regions. One is called as plasma and second is known as the blood. Formed elements or blood cells. And if we discuss the physical properties of the blood constitutes 8% of the total fraction of the body weight. I want to say, if a person is having the weight of 100 kilogram, 8 kilogram of the body weight is contributed by the blood. And with respect to the volume, the females are having 4 to 5 liters of the blood, whereas a male possesses near about 5 to 6 liters of the blood. The more amount of the blood or more quantity of the blood in the male, it is associated with the high basal metabolic rate in case of human males. And in addition to that, in case of the female, due to the loss of the blood in the menstrual cycle, the quantity of the blood is comparatively lesser in comparison to the males. And the temperature of the blood is near about 38 degrees centigrade, 1 degree greater than the body temperature, and it is 100.4 degree Fahrenheit in the Fahrenheit scale. The pH of the blood is 7.35 to 7.45. It means that it is slightly alkaline, because we know that the pH range above 7 is alkaline and 7.35 to 7.45 is the pH of the blood. Viscosity, that is, I want to say concentration index of the blood with respect to the water molecule, that is near about 4.5 to 5.5, whereas the plasma, it is having only the consistency of viscosity index up to 2. It means that the plasma is comparatively thin in comparison to the whole blood composition. Osmolarity or the salt concentration in the blood is 280 to 300 milliosmomoles per liter, and mean salinity, particularly with reference to sodium chloride, it is 0.85%. And in case of females, I have already told to you the volume of even the formed elements, it is lesser, it is 37 to 48%, whereas in case of the male, it is 45 to 52%, and it is correlated with high basal metabolic rate in case of human males in contrast to the females. And if we compare the value of hemoglobin as well as a RBC count or a WBC count in male and female, so we can say in case of the female, the amount of the hemoglobin is 12 to 16 grams per 100 ml of the blood. Keep in mind, hemoglobin is a wonderful red colored protein which is accommodated inside the RBC, and this hemoglobin play important role in the transportation of respiratory gases. And in case of the male, its amount is a little bit more. It is 13 to 18 grams per 100 ml of the blood volume. And likewise, the main RBC count in the female, it is slightly lesser than the male. It is 4.8 million per cubic liter of the blood. Whereas in case of male, it is 5.4 million per cubic liter of the blood. And again, the same reason can be assigned. To the lesser number of RBC as well as a lesser amount of the hemoglobin in case the female, as the female is having low BMR rate in comparison to the male. And there is another reason, that is a loss of the blood during the menstrual cycle. Platelet count is almost the same in case the male and female. It is near about 1,30,000 to 3,60,000 per microliter of the blood volume. And total WBC count is also similar in case of the male as well as the female. It is near about 4,000 to 11,000 per microliter of the blood volume. Now, if we compare the plasma composition, the plasma, which is the 55% component of the blood volume, that is made up of 92% of water. Keep in mind, 92% of plasma is contributed by the water molecule, whereas the solid portions, they contribute only up to the extent of 8%. And these solid components includes the protein molecules such as albumin is there, globulin is there, then fibrinogen or blood clotting protein is there, enzymes of diagnostic value are there, and the some nutrients like glucose, amino acids, fatty acids, lactic acids, all of these, they primarily contribute to the solid component of the plasma, and the solid component of the plasma contribute only up to 8% part. And in addition to that, we have the lipids in the blood plasma, cholesterols, fatty acids, HDL or high density lipoproteins, LDL or low density lipoproteins, then the neutral fats, which are basically co-derived from the diet we are taking, and the phospholipid molecules. Plasma also carries some important mineral elements like iron, and iron is also useful in the formation of the hemoglobin portion of the blood. In addition to that, the vitamins are also there, such as vitamin A, vitamin B, C, D, E, and K. All of these, they are found in trace amounts in the plasma. And electrolytes, which are reported in the blood plasma, they are sodium, potassium, then we can say magnesium, calcium, chloride, bicarbonate, phosphates, and sulfates. All of these, they are the electrolytes which are found inside the blood plasma. And the major electrolyte which is reported in the blood plasma, that is the sodium and potassium. The concentration of the sodium is near about 135 to 145 milliequiliter per liter, and the value of potassium is 3.5 to 5 milliequiliter per liter of the blood volume. Then furthermore, the nitrogenous waste material, they may also be found within the plasma because they are formed as a waste product from the tissue cells, and they are transported with the activity of the blood. The various kinds of the nitrogenous waste material which are reported inside the blood plasma, they include the substances such as ammonia, urea, creatinine, uric acid, and bilirubin. And the respiratory gases, they are also found in the blood plasma because they are transported up to the little extent with the help of the blood plasma as well. Then there is an important term which is usually asked in the examination, and that is what is the main difference between the plasma and the serum. The plasma contains some clotting elements like fibrinogen, prothrombin, etc., which play important role in the blood clotting process. If we isolate these clotting proteins from the blood plasma, the rest material is referred with the name of serum. I want to say what is serum. Serum is the name of the blood plasma minus the clotting elements. Then the formed elements, which constitute near about 45% part of the blood, they include the RBC, WBC, and platelets. Keep in mind, I have already mentioned RBC are the cellular components of the blood, WBC are the cellular component of the blood, but platelets are not the cells, but rather than these are cell fragments. That is, these are actually the fragments of the cells which are formed from the large sized cells present in the bone marrow known as megakaryocytes. So this is the slide which indicate the various categories of the blood cells in the normal blood smear. The smallest kind of the blood cells, these are the RBC, which you can visualize, and these RBC which are reported in the human, they are characterized by absence of nucleus. Whereas the WBC, these are the large sized cells in comparison to the RBC, and we can see the small fragments here and they are intermingled in the blood smear, and these small fragments, they are the platelets. So this is a little bit magnified vision of the blood smear. You can report the various categories of the blood cells in it: monocytes, lymphocytes, neutrophils, basophil, eosinophils, then the blood platelets, RBC. All of these, they contribute to the categories of formed elements. Now, if I would highlight first of all the erythrocytes, the first important kind of the blood cells. Erythrocytes, they are commonly called as red blood cells. And with regard to their morphology, they are biconcave in shape, and this shape is well suited for gaseous exchange as well as their movement across the blood vessels. Due to the biconcave shape, the RBC can easily pass through the smallest blood vessels like the capillaries, and they don't stuck inside the blood vessels, and it may lead to the continuous blood supply to a particular organ, and hence it is necessary for maintenance of normal functioning of all the organs of the body, because each and every organ of the human body is having the blood supply. So RBC, they are having the diameter of 7.5 micrometer, you may see in the screen, and they have the thickness of 2 micrometer near the rim area. Due to the biconcave shape, the central region of the RBC is thin, whereas the peripheral region or rims of the RBC, they are quite thicker. Then these are important categories of cells which are characterized by absence of nucleus as well as the other organelles. And it is one of the adaptation of the RBC, because RBC have lost all the organelles in order to accommodate the hemoglobin molecule. In order to accommodate the maximum amount of the hemoglobin, the RBC have lost its various organelles, and its functioning becomes more efficient, as the hemoglobin is the component which play important role in the gaseous transportation. Hemoglobin, which is found inside the RBC, it is a wonderful protein, and it is a conjugated protein molecule which is having the two important portions. One is called as a heme, second is called as a globin. The heme is the non-proteinaceous portion of the hemoglobin, whereas the globin is the proteinaceous portion of the hemoglobin. The heme portion carry iron element, whereas the globin portion is made up of 4 polypeptide chains, which are designated with the name as alpha chain. Alpha chain is there, beta chain, alpha chain is there, you may see, beta chain is there, and there are 2 alpha chains. There are 2 alpha chains and 2 beta chains in the hemoglobin molecule. Overall, there are found the total 4 polypeptide chains or protein chains in the globin portion of hemoglobin. Keep in mind, alpha chain carry 141 amino acid, whereas 1 beta chain carry near about 146 amino acid. On the whole, the hemoglobin molecule globin portion is having 574 amino acid in all, because there are the 2 alpha chains and there are the 2 beta chains, and if we multiply 141 into 2 and 146 into 2, we can have 574 amino acid in total in the protein portion of the globin molecule of hemoglobin. And this hemoglobin molecule, one hemoglobin molecule is having the 4 iron elements, and they are necessary for the formation of the heme pigment. And this is the chemical structure of the hemoglobin molecule, especially the heme portion of the hemoglobin molecule, and you may report the iron, it is present in the center of the heme unit. And primarily the hemoglobin play important role in the transportation of oxygen as well as the carbon dioxide. But the hemoglobin molecule shows more affinity for the carbon monoxide molecule. I want to say, if carbon monoxide is present in the higher concentration or even in the lower concentration, the hemoglobin can only and only bind with the carbon monoxide. and it will leave the oxygen and carbon dioxide on the site. So the process by which the carbon monoxide binds to the hemoglobin and makes the hemoglobin neutral, that is called as a carbon monoxide poisoning. And it is fatal because it may lead to death due to the suffocation. Then keep in mind, when the hemoglobin binds with the oxygen, in the condition when the concentration of the oxygen is higher, they will form a complex with the hemoglobin which is called as oxyhemoglobin. And oxyhemoglobin complex is redder in color. But when the concentration of the oxygen is lesser and hemoglobin then binds to the carbon dioxide, then it will form carboxyhemoglobin. The complex of hemoglobin with the carbon dioxide is known as carboxyhemoglobin. And carboxyhemoglobin is not redder in color, rather it is bluish in color. Then the primary function of erythrocytes or RBC, I have mentioned the primary function is the transportation of respiratory gases. They help in the transportation of oxygen from the lungs to the tissue cells and carbon dioxide from tissue cells to the lungs. Secondly, the hemoglobin acts as excellent blood buffer. And we know that what is a buffer molecule? A molecule which can resist in the pH change, that is referred with the name of buffer molecule. And hemoglobin can easily neutralize the acidity or basicity of the blood. As we know that we are taking the various kinds of the diets, and these diets may promote the formation of acidic pH or basic pH, but due to the presence of the hemoglobin, the blood pH remains constant and it is maintained between 7.35 to 7.45. Then from where we can have the RBC, that is what about the source of RBC? If I will highlight here, the main source of the RBC is the bone marrow. Keep in mind, in the adult person, the bone marrow produces the various kinds of blood cells, including the RBC. The process of formation of the blood cell from the bone marrow, it is referred with the name of hematopoiesis or hemopoiesis. And particularly with reference to the RBC, it is referred with the name of erythropoiesis. Erythropoiesis is the process of formation of RBC from the bone marrow. But in the fetal life, the RBC, they are produced first of all by yolk sac, which is one of the fetal membrane. And thereafter, in the newly born baby, since the bone marrow is not fully developed, the RBC are then formed by the liver. And when the bone marrow gets developed up to the age of 1.5 years, thereafter, the RBC will be formed by the bone marrow. It means that there are three different stages in our life from we can say the RBC are formed in the body. In the fetal age, they are produced by the yolk sac. In the childhood age, below the age of 1.5 years, they are produced by the liver, and after 1.5 years, when the bone marrow get developed, then the bone marrow will serve as the hemobiotic organ or erythropoietic organ for the formation of the RBC. On an average, 1 ounce or near about 100 billion blood cells, they are made each day by the bone marrow. And the bone marrow, it is having the two important region. One is called as red bone marrow, which is residing in the epiphysis or ends of long bones, and second is a yellow bone marrow, which is restricted to the region of shaft area. Keep in mind, the red bone marrow is the active part of the bone marrow which produces the various kinds of the blood cells, including the RBC and WBC. The yellow bone marrow is comparatively inactive in the process of formation of the various categories of blood cells. And there are some dietary requirements in order to have the normal rate of erythropoiesis or RBC formation, and that is the presence of iron, vitamin B12 and folic acid. And these three elements, they are needed in order to form the RBC. And you may see this is how the RBC, they are formed by the liver as well as the bone marrow. And there is a communication between the various organs for the purpose of formation of the RBC by the bone marrow. That is, there is a communication between the blood, liver, kidneys, as well as the intestine. All of these organs, they coordinate with each other, and finally the erythropoiesis begins inside the bone marrow. The average lifespan of RBC is near about 120 days. And there are some disorders which are associated with the RBC, and one of them is anemia. This is a condition in which the blood has abnormally low oxygen carrying capacity because the number of the RBC is below normal. And common cause of the anemia includes an insufficient number of RBC and then decreased hemoglobin content inside the RBC if the number of the RBC is normal, and thirdly, the abnormal hemoglobin. The abnormal hemoglobin can be visualized in the diseases such as thalassemia and sickle cell anemia. These are the two conditions in which a person is having abnormally shaped RBC and abnormally shaped hemoglobin, which is not effective in the transportation of respiratory gases. Then, if the number of the RBC exceeds beyond normal, the condition is referred with the name of polycythemia. And the common cause for the polycythemia, it includes the bone marrow cancer, and secondly, the response to reduced availability of oxygen, particularly in the high altitudes. The second kind of the blood cells we have, these are called as the leukocytes or white cells. The leukocytes or the white cells, they are of two main categories. One are called as granulocytes, and the second category is referred with the name of agranulocytes. Granulocytes and agranulocytes. Granulocytes are those kinds of the WBC which possess granules in their cytoplasm, whereas the agranulocytes are those kinds of the WBC which lack the granules. Their cytoplasm is clear and translucent due to the absence of granules. And the granulocytes, they are having the three subcategories: neutrophils, eosinophils, and basophils, whereas the agranulocytes are having only the two categories: lymphocytes and monocytes. And you can visualize the various kinds of the agranulocytes as well as the granulocytes in the slide. Lymphocytes and monocytes are the agranulocytes, and you may see in the monocytes, particularly in the monocytes, we can have no granule. Whereas in case of neutrophils, which is one of the category of granulocyte, it is having the granule inside it. And the basophils, these are also the granulocytes. These are also having the granules inside it. And the third category of the granulocytes we have, these are known as eosinophils, and eosinophils are also having the granule inside them. These are the eosinophils, which are one of the category of granulocytes. Then the second category of granulocytes, these are referred with the name of neutrophils. These are the neutrophils. And the third category, these are the basophils. Keep in mind, the eosinophils are having the bilobed nucleus. Neutrophil is having many-lobed nucleus, whereas the basophil nucleus is having the three lobes. Basophil, these are the WBC which secrete a chemical which is known as a histamine, and histamine play important role in the allergic reactions. And it is one of the potent vasodilator. It helps in the dilation of blood vessels as well. Neutrophils, they are primarily phagocytic in function, whereas eosinophil, they helps to combat the parasitic infections. And the agranulocyte cells which are reported in the bloodstream, they are the monocytes and lymphocytes. Keep in mind, monocytes, they are the largest kind of WBC, whereas the lymphocytes, these are the smallest kind of WBC. Lymphocytes are the smallest kind of WBC, whereas the monocytes are the largest kind of WBC. The smallest kind of the blood cells are RBC. I am talking about only WBC. Among WBC, the largest category is monocyte. The smallest category is of lymphocytes. Lymphocytes are the most active kind of WBC which produce even the antibodies, and they also fight with the infection particles. And they are responsible for generating the third line of defense of our body which is referred with the name of antibody molecule. Antibodies, they are secreted by lymphocytes, and there is a particular set of lymphocytes which secrete the antibody, which are known as B lymphocytes. Then the normal number of leukocyte in the blood is 4,000 to 11,000 per microliter of the blood. This is known as WBC count or a total WBC count. And the major function of the leukocyte is the defense. These are the soldiers as well as the scavengers of our body. They roam in the blood vessels and they try to combat the infection particles as they are reported within the organs or within the bloodstream. Lifespan of WBC is varying from several hours to several days. Primarily on average, the WBC may survive for 7 days, and even the some memory cells. Memory cells are a category of lymphocytes. They can remain for many years. The neutrophils, I have already told you, these are having the multi-lobed nucleus, and these are phagocytic in function. They phagocytize the bacteria. Eosinophils, they play important role in combating the parasitic infection. They are very lesser in number, near about 1% to 4% of the total total WBC. And basophils, they are only 0.5%, and their nucleus is 3-lobed, and they secrete a chemical which is called as a histamine, and histamine acts as vasodilator molecule, and it is also known as mediator of allergic reactions or inflammation. Lymphocytes are the most active kind of the WBC, and they are further having the 3 subtypes: B lymphocytes, T lymphocytes, and null cells. Primarily, the B as well as the T lymphocytes are found in large number in the bloodstream. Keep in mind, the lymphocyte contribute 20% to 45% of the total WBC. Their number is largest of all the other categories of WBC. And lymphocytes, they play important role in the generation of cell-mediated immune response as well as antibody-mediated immune response, because they produce antibodies and these antibodies neutralize the antigens, and furthermore they also help in fighting with the infection particles. Monocytes, largest kind of the WBC and playing the role in the phagocytosis process, that is feeding upon the bacteria as well as some other categories of infection particles which try to cause the disease condition within the body. And there are 2 common type of leukocyte disorder. One is called as a leukopenia, that is if the number of the WBC getting lesser than 4,000. That is if the number of the WBC decreases beyond the minimum limit of 4,000, we can have the leukocytopenia or leukopenia. But if the number of the WBC exceeds beyond 11,000, we have the another kind of condition which is called as a leukocytosis. The third category of the category of blood platelets, which are the formed elements, they play important role in the blood clotting process, and their number I have already told you, it is varying from 1,30,000 to 4 lakh per microliter of the blood volume. And these are not the cells, but rather than the cell fragments. They are formed by the division and fragmentation of cells known as megakaryocytes, the very large cells in the bone marrow. Thank you so much for watching the Education World YouTube channel. And if you have some query or doubt, you can post your queries. Thank you.